I would like to start this webinar on the ACS Bridge program, how to become a bridge site or a bridge partner. I'm Jörg Schlatter, I'm the ACS Bridge Project Director, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to talk to you today about our program and how you could get involved in ACS's efforts to broaden participation in graduate education in the chemical sciences. Briefly, I joined ACS about 2.5 years ago. I'm a chemist by training. I received my PhD from the University of Heidelberg. Many years ago, I worked as a postdoc, as a faculty member here in the US before I transitioned to the National Science Foundation, where I have worked as a program director for 3 years in the Division of Graduate Education. And again, about 2.5 years ago, I joined ACS, and I was very thrilled to learn about ACS's efforts to really create a diverse, inclusive, and respectful work environment in the chemical sciences. A little bit more about our program and how we run it here at ACS. Of course, I'm one small part of the ACS Bridge team. We have a total of 6 individuals at ACS who help manage that program. We have Chris Giavoni, he's the project manager. Ruth Tessema, she's the project coordinator. Our executive vice president for education, Latrice Garrison, is on board, part of our team. Benjamin Fuhrer-Walker, who is the manager of the diversity office at ACS, is also part. And Terry Chambers, who is the director for the learning and career development group, is also an official part of the project team. We are also privileged to work with a fantastic group of advisors who are all faculty members who are deeply invested in diversity in the chemical education arena. And without them, we wouldn't be able to really plan for the next coming 4 years where we have NSF funding to really entertain the ACS Bridge project, but also thinking beyond the funding phase, how to make this project actually sustainable at a society level. And I encourage you all to think about questions you might have and submit those questions via chat to Chris, who worked tirelessly in the background to make this webinar work and to capture actually your questions and to field those questions later to me, but also to the 2 Bridge Site directors who will join us in about 25 minutes to share a little bit about their programs and to give tips and tricks to you how they crafted competitive proposals for becoming a Bridge Site. A little bit of background information about ACS. As you might know, ACS is the world's largest scientific society. We have more than 150,000 members globally. Its mission is to advance the broader chemistry enterprise and its practitioners for the benefit of Earth and its people. We do that, we work towards that mission by embracing 4 core values, and one of the core values is actually diversity, inclusion, and respect. Every part of ACS embraces the core values, even ACS Education. ACS Education has a set of diversity programs that focus actually on diversity. As a quick refresher and reminder, Project SEED focuses on high school research experiences. The ACS Scholars Program focuses on undergraduate studies, and with the ACS Bridge project, we have the 3rd diversity focus project in our ACS Education portfolio. We focus here on graduate studies. And just last year, in 2018, we were able to secure NSF grant funding to really tackle one of the big challenges, the challenges you see here on that graph. The graph depicts the degrees to underrepresented minorities in chemistry. Those are numbers which reflect a 5-year average between 2013 and 2017. And as you can see, 18% of all undergraduate degree holders, 18% of the undergraduate degree holders are actually from underrepresented minority groups, but this percentage decreases significantly if you look at master level degree holders and PhD degree PhD degree holders. There's a 7% gap between undergraduate degrees and PhD degrees, and this is a problem if you think about having the goal to increase the number of diverse faculty members. That is not possible if there is no one in the pipeline who could step in. That is a problem when we think about really recruiting a diverse group of professionals to other areas of the workforce, in industry, in the nonprofit world, in all other career areas PhD level chemists could work. There is a need for a wide range of professionals. So we at ACS, with our ACS Bridge program, we joined actually the forces with a larger group. But before we get to the larger group, the IGEN, the Inclusive Graduate Education Network, I would like to turn it over, this presentation, quickly to Chris Schiavone, the project manager, who will guide us to the first audience question. Chris.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining. The first audience poll is: how familiar are you with bridge programs such as the ACS Bridge program or the APS Bridge program? You're able to select one. And I will close the poll in 3, 2, it looks like just about everybody has voted, and we are split between somewhat familiar and not very familiar, leaning towards not very familiar, Jorg.
Oh, that is good that you're here. And also, I'm delighted to share with you that we record this webinar and will post this video online, because what we have learned, some faculty members and some department chairs and directors of graduate studies are not able to join today, but would like to have access to this information, which we'll share today with you live and later on with the other groups. ACS is part of the Inclusive Graduate Education Network, which secured about $10 million for 5 years from the National Science Foundation. Overall, this Inclusive Graduate Education Network aims to increase the participation of women and underrepresented racial and ethnic minorities in graduate studies in the physical sciences that include, of course, physics, chemistry, astronomy, material sciences, the geosciences, and hopefully within the next couple of months and years, other physical science disciplines, as they would like to become part of this endeavor. The American Physical Society is actually the leader of the Inclusive Graduate Education Network, based on their earlier engagements in the NSF Includes initiative. They were eligible to apply for this Alliance grant, and we are very appreciative of being part of the Inclusive Graduate Education Network. Again, more than 30 scientific societies, educational institutions, corporations, and national labs and other organizations are part of IGEN. IGEN's overall vision is to achieve equity for underrepresented groups in doctoral degree attainment in the physical sciences. Under this umbrella, the ACS Bridge project has 3 distinct goals. Now we focus again back to the chemical sciences. In the chemical sciences, we would like to increase within 10 years the fraction of chemical science PhDs awarded to underrepresented minority students to match the fraction of chemical science undergraduate degree holders granted to these groups. Second goal, we would like to develop, evaluate, and document sustainable model bridging experiences that improve the access to and culture of graduate education for all students, with emphasis on those underrepresented in doctoral programs in the chemical sciences. Promote and disseminate successful program components to the chemical science community is the third goal within our ACS Bridge project. Let me tell you briefly, chemical sciences, we really talk about chemistry and chemical engineering. In chemistry, all different flavors of chemistry, from inorganic to biochemistry to organic. We are very inclusive there as well. But again, we have to point out chemical engineering is an important part of ACS, and as you will learn later, one of the first bridge sites is actually a bridge site which is active in the chemical engineering area. The ACS Bridge project consists of two parts. The first one we call the Bridge Program, and that is the focus of today's webinar, where we help students to get into grad school, and we provide funds and or access to talent to institutions. In the second part, you could visit our website, www.acs.org/bridge, where you would learn more about the Bridge Travel Awards, where we provide up to $2,000 for underrepresented minority students who would like to attend either an ACS spring meeting or a NOBICHE fall meeting, where they would learn how to write a competitive graduate school application. If you have any students who would be interested in participating in this part of the ACS Bridge project, please refer them to our website and make sure they attend the next ACS spring meeting or the NOBICHE meeting in fall. But let's focus now on the ACS Bridge program itself. How it works, that's actually my favorite slide of the whole presentation because it's simple and it's clear. In the middle, you see a blue box, which is the ACS Bridge Applicant Database. And this database is hosted at ACS. We asked students to send their general grad school application for free to ACS. We capture that information and we think deeply with which departments would we like to share those applications. Those departments have to have demonstrated certain commitments which help students succeed, either getting into a graduate program or maybe allowing students already entering a graduate program. And we will talk about the selection criteria in a minute. Every single student who gets selected from that database and enrolls in a program we call the ACS Bridge Fellows. Typically, Bridge Fellows are students who would benefit from additional preparation to significantly increase the chance of gaining admission into a chemical science doctoral program. Who applies? Well, we looked at this year's application pool and we compared that with our hypothesis that typically students apply who did not get into a regular grad school program through the regular application process. Or there are some students who didn't even apply to graduate school because they thought, oh, I'm not competitive anyway. So they sent in their application to our ACS Bridge program application module. There are also students that might need additional preparation to be ready for grad school, but all have in common they would like to get a research-based PhD degree in the chemical sciences. Let's talk about the departments which we select. There are two different types of departments we are looking for. A, bridge sites, and B, bridge partners. To tell you the difference between those two types of institutions, we should look at this table. The ACS Bridge Sites, here embraced by the red rectangle, those are institutions that will receive funds from US taxpayers through ACS, and those funds are up to $180,000 for 3 years. The bridge sites have access to the ACS Bridge application database early access to the Bridge database. They have demonstrated departmental commitment to goals of the ACS Bridge program, and they will receive public recognition by ACS through being highlighted on the website, through publications, and so on and so on. Of course, a Bridge site can use their status to strengthen, for example, broader impact statements in federal grant applications, such as NSF grant proposals. And typically, the ACS Bridge site is to become an ACS Bridge site. There is an application deadline once a year. This year it is October 31st, by which we would like to receive pre-proposals. It's important to note that if there is, for example, biochemistry department or chemical biology department at a medical school, at this point, those departments would not be eligible to receive federal funds through our NSF grants. However, as you see on the right-hand side, they would be eligible to receive access to the student database. And we will talk a little bit later about what it takes to apply for becoming a Bridge partner. What is an ACS Bridge site? Typically, it's a chemistry department or a chemical engineering department. They receive funding. They select and host ACS Bridge Fellows. They provide research experiences, advanced coursework for Bridge Fellows. They have a robust mentoring infrastructure. They have a system by which they can monitor closely the progress of the fellows, and they have coaching mechanisms in place that help and facilitate progress of Bridge Fellows on their site. And of course, those institutions think deeply about how to make those Bridge programs, those Bridge sites sustainable beyond the 3-year funding period, which comes along with the ACS Bridge site status. $180,000 per Bridge site for 3 years, and that includes a flat rate payment of $25,000 per Bridge Fellow. It's a stipend and a benefit, and includes stipend and benefit. Up to 2 Bridge Fellows can be funded per year, and overall the Bridge site can receive funding for up to 3 years. The funding of $180,000 includes also $10,000 per year for institutional support, and it's up to the institution to decide how they would like to use it. Some institutions use it to pay the salary for an administrator who works closely with the students. Some use the $10,000 for research support. There's a wide variety of uses how institutions decide to use the $10,000. We are asked quite often about how does it work with the $25,000 for the Bridge Fellows, and what if you have more than 3 people onboarding? Let me give you an example. Let's say institution A was selected as an ACS Bridge site. And in year 1, this institution selects 3 individuals from our Bridge database. Well, the institution A will receive 2 times $25,000 for supporting 2 of the students. The institution selects which of the students they would like to support through the $25,000, and also $10,000 administrative support fee. So $60,000 for year 1. Let's say in the next year, institution A looks again at the application database and selects again 2 more fellows. Here, Bridge Fellows 4 and Bridge Fellow 5. They receive again 2 times $25,000 for the new Bridge Fellow cohort, plus $10,000 administrative support, makes again $60,000 for year 2. In year 3, institution A decides, okay, there's again a great variety and we would like to include 3 more fellows. 2 of them will receive $25,000 for that particular year. And again, $10,000 administrative support makes a sum of $60,000. Over 3 years, institution A receives $180,000. I hope that this example highlights how we provide funding every year to 2 students and to help with administrative tasks. Again, the slides will be downloadable. We will post that video if you would like to revisit with your faculty colleagues this example. Who is eligible for becoming a bridge site? Institutions, universities or colleges that offer a master's or doctoral degree in chemical sciences, chemistry, chemical engineering. They have to be located and accredited in the United States or Puerto Rico. They must have active research programs readily available to Bridge Fellows throughout the academic year. The site leaders must be a tenured or tenure-track faculty member in the chemical sciences with a strong backing from the chair and university administration. And I think later Bob Hamers and Carson Meredith will talk a little bit more about how they received buy-in from the department chair and from university administration for their successful bridge site applications. Mark October 31st in red on your calendars because that is the deadline. We would like to receive the pre-proposals by 5 p.m. Eastern Time on October 31st. We expect that we will receive a large number of pre-proposals on October 31st. ACS, with the help of a dedicated set of reviewers, decide which about 6 institutions will be asked to submit a full proposal. And the deadline for the full proposal will be January 6. I forgot to mention that the review will have concluded, the review of the pre-proposals will have concluded early December. That means early December, every institution that is eligible for submitting a full proposal will learn about that and has about 4 weeks to really submit the full proposal. We expect that that up to 2 bridge sites will be announced in March 2020. The pre-proposal should be submitted as a single PDF document to me, Jörg Schlatter, but use the bridge@acs.org email address. Use the indicated subject line, pre-proposal, ACS Bridge Site 2019. And I have to highlight again, late proposals will be not accepted. There are 4 components for the pre-proposals. We ask for a project overview. We ask for project goals. And we talk about, or we ask for infrastructure elements, including the setting. We would like to see some data for at least the last 3 years, numbers of all graduate students with an underrepresented minority background, with undergraduate degrees, master's degree, and PhDs if applicable. We want to learn a little bit about the racial and ethnic diversity at your department. And of course, we would like to learn about your project team. All those components are outlined in detail in the request for proposal, and I hope by now you have downloaded the request for proposal. If not, if you don't find it on our website, feel free to reach out to us at bridge@acs.org. We could send you easily also the PDF. Also, there are certain key components to the pre-proposal, and in those components address how you would make admissions decisions, how you'd envision financial support of the Bridge Fellows, which mentoring structure do you envision having in place at your department for the Bridge Fellows? How would your community work with Bridge Fellows? How would other graduate students, how would undergraduate students work with those Bridge Fellows? How would postdocs work with them? Faculty members. You should talk about coursework, about potential research projects, how you actually use individual development plans to help Bridge Fellows and other graduate students in your department to plan for their careers, whatever it is. If they would like to become faculty members or join industry or a profit organization, it doesn't really matter. You should address also infrastructure that ensure mental well-being of your Bridge Fellows and current graduate students, how you would monitor progress of the Bridge Fellows, application coaching, and your thoughts on how to make that particular bridge project or that bridge program sustainable in your local context. And of course, the last part, the last component of the pre-proposal would be a brief summary of your anticipated budget. Again, the pre-proposal timeline is as follows. The deadline is October 31st. ACS will inform up to 6 departments of their eligibility to support a full proposal early December. I would say December 1st or 2nd. And the deadline for the full proposal will be January 6th, 2020. And the announcement will be made in March. Sorry, this is, it should say March 2020. The components of the full proposal, in very brief, is very similar to the pre-proposals, but more expanded, more details about the different components. Project summary, project description. There are additional proposal sections where you could include references, where you should include the biographical sketches of key personnel, current and pending support, letters of support from, for example, the dean or the dean or the director of the diversity office on your campus, etc. And also the full proposal would have an NSF style budget component as well. We talked until now just about bridge sites. We have also the other category, the bridge partners who will not receive funding but access to the student database. They receive access to the student database about 1 or 2 weeks after the bridge site have had their first access. But nevertheless, we expect that next year we will have a significant number of student applicants, so we will be able to connect talent with a large number of bridge partners and bridge sites. I have to point out bridge partners eligibility, even for example, chemistry related departments such as biochemistry or chemical biology at medical schools would be eligible to apply for that status as well. Important is that for those bridge partners, they commit to ACS Bridge Program principles, which include a strong mentoring infrastructure, the use of IDPs, taking care of mental wellness of all ACS Bridge Fellows and all graduate students, and providing appropriate research in research projects and learning environments for those students. How to become an ACS Bridge Site? Well, we will have an RFP and proposal template available, an updated one on our website. The application is open. You could submit your application whenever you want to throughout the year, but once a year, around June 1st, we will compile all the proposals and we will have our review panel analyzing those proposals, and we will inform those newly selected bridge partners in fall of that year of their status, and those bridge partners will have access to the student database in the following year. Again, the proposals have to address department overview, faculty engagement, mentoring activities, admission practices, advising and induction, progress monitoring, data about the department, and demographics. Now we are at the point where we would like to see what the audience has learned. Chris, I turn it over to you, to the second set of audience questions.
Thank you, Jörg. For our second audience poll, it's which of the affiliated ACS Bridge departments have access to the ACS Bridge applicant database?
I guess the poll is open now?
Yes.
Okay.
We are about just about half the people have voted. I'll close the poll in 3, 2, 1, and we are almost split half and half, with the majority saying that everyone can.
Oh, I'm so happy. I wished 100% would have said both are eligible to access the data base, because that is the right answer. So I have to work on my educational approaches in the future. But again, bridge sites and bridge partners both have access to the student database. Bridge sites a little bit earlier, bridge partners a little bit later. So let's move on. In my experience as a former program officer at the National Science Foundation, it doesn't really matter what the program officer shares with the audience. The best stories and the best advice always comes from those individuals who successfully secured grant funding from NSF, and in this case now through ACS. It's a pleasure and delight to have Dr. Carson Meredith from Georgia Tech with us today, and Dr. Bob Hamers. Both of them are bridge site leaders at Georgia Tech and at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And Carson, since you're listed first, it would be fantastic if you could give a brief overview about your bridge site and your bridge program. And after that, we might go to Bob with the same task. And then after that, we would like to learn about tips and tricks, what you think made your proposals really competitive.
Okay, sure. So here at Georgia Tech, our bridge program is in the School of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering. So we're separate from the Department of Chemistry here. But so we wanted to represent the engineering side of the chemical sciences. So we have a program that is built around a significantly augmented research master's degree in chemical and biomolecular engineering, where the bridge fellows are earning a master's with a research advisor, but they are given a significant number of new supports that foster their integration into the program, and that will our goal is to make them successful, prepared, and ready to enter a PhD program, which they will have the option to continue on here towards a PhD, but our goal is that they would also be fully prepared to be successful at any major university in the U.S. if they chose to apply for a PhD elsewhere.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And a quick note to the audience, if you have any questions, please send them via chat, and Chris will read them later, and Bob, Carson, or I will be happy to answer those questions. Thank you so much, Carson. Bob.
Let's see. So our program is a 21-month research master's degree. So I tend to view this as being sort of a triad. We have a strong emphasis on a research master's research project, but then couple that with intensive mentoring and coursework as needed. So essentially, students come in the fall. They do rotations just like our PhD students do. They choose a lab to do their master's in, and after that, they're doing a mix of coursework and research. We provide full fellowship for the entire duration of their time. So between the ACS and matching funds from our graduate school and from the College of Letters and Science, they have all their expenses paid through the end of the 21 months. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I would like to ask both of you, what do you think, so as you prepared your proposal, your pre-proposal, you must have had a lot of conversations with your colleagues, how position yourself to be competitive within this application process. So what do you think was the biggest or most significant item you added to your proposals to make them competitive? Carson.
Sure. Well, I'm going to give my best guess because I think only the reviewers maybe know that answer for sure. But I think that, you know, based on the feedback we got from you, Org, and Chris and the review team, it seemed that being able to make a very clear statement about how we would impact and move the needle forward on the number of ultimate PhD graduates. It seemed like getting new people into the pipeline to earn a PhD that wouldn't have already done so was key. And so addressing specifically how we would do that, which is different from simply stating that we were going to strengthen an existing pipeline of students or support students who are already probably going to end up in grad school anyway. So trying to make that clear in the proposal, I think, was very important.
Thank you. Bob.
Yeah, I think that the key for us was a bit of a track record in terms of recruiting and supporting students, especially students from underrepresented groups. So we had been running an REU program for about 10 years. And of course, REUs tend to draw students who are already very qualified and will get into PhD programs no matter what. But about 5 or 6 years ago, we had started a program that we called CHOPS, Chemistry Opportunities, which targets students who are either economically disadvantaged or first-generation college or underrepresented minority group. About a year earlier than we would typically be recruiting students, and we would bring them in for an all-expense-paid trip to Madison, explain to them things that you might expect they would know, like you get paid to go to graduate school. That experience, I think, helped us a lot to understand what are some of the unique challenges that are faced by students who come. Many of these students come from small schools where they're just not exposed to a lot of the things that we would expect a student would know. And then I'd say probably the most important thing was we had my colleague, actually, Desiree Bates. We run it as a team, so I'm a little more on the academic side. She's more of the mentoring side. But she had developed a program called Catalyst, which is a peer mentoring program. And that Catalyst program was originally targeted toward incoming PhD students who were from URM or economically disadvantaged. It was open to other people. We specifically invited them. And that program had expanded and again gave us a little bit of experience in how to effectively support students from non-traditional backgrounds once they're on our campus. So I think that largely set the stage for us to say, all right, we're ready to go to the next level and really pull from another group of students where we're not just competing with Georgia Tech or Illinois or Purdue for our students, but we're really pulling from a new group of students who simply would not be in the program otherwise.
Thank you for sharing. Before we turn to audience questions, I'm wondering if you could quickly talk about mentoring. So which mentoring strategies did you develop for ACS or for Bridge Fellows on your campus, and what do you think is critical for them?
So I'll say here, we essentially have a strategy where we've got each student, of course, has an MS advisor as they normally would in a traditional master's program, but we have specifically assigned a mentor with the students' feedback about making sure they like their mentor, of course, but assign them a graduate successful PhD student as a mentor and a faculty member as a mentor. And we are, of course, we're just starting up this fall, but we are giving those mentors some training. This comes through our Vice Provost for Faculty Development, is providing some mentorship training to those people. And so that's really giving them a combined mentorship from both a student and a faculty member.
Thank you for sharing. Bob.
Yeah, I think one of the really important things that we did, and again, this is something we learned through this Catalyst program, was before, about a month before students got on campus, we assigned each one of them a cultural mentor. So again, coming back to this Catalyst peer support network, students volunteer either to be mentored or to be mentees. And the mentors are usually students who have been around campus for a couple of years. And so what we did was we took a poll of various personality interests, for example, and identified a cultural mentor, and then essentially asked that cultural mentor to engage with the student before they ever arrived on campus, but then especially to meet them once they got on campus and make sure that they know, where's the grocery store, how to use the bus. Okay. One thing that we learned from the APS team was that many of these students may never have had a checking account before. They may not know how to open a bank account. All right. We can't make assumptions about what they know. And so the idea of having a cultural mentor was to make sure that when they land here, they feel comfortable and they get acclimated before they start seeing faculty and other people. Then the plan is, once they do these rotations and choose their research master's topic, then they will have another student who will be their research mentor along with the faculty member. We did them as pairs so that they basically act as a team working with the student. And then what we would like to do, and we're still in the process of figuring out exactly how to do this, is also have a career mentor. We felt that many students may not really know what are the range of career opportunities are available to chemists. So what we're trying to do is find other chemists, PhD chemists who are in the community, largely people from non-academic backgrounds, because oftentimes students think the only reason to get a PhD is to go to academia, but really targeting here successful PhDs in industry or nonprofits or other non-academic backgrounds who will then kind of help them act as an independent party, free of the university, who might be able to advise them if they're having trouble, for example, with someone in the university. They have another person they can go to who is familiar enough with the university that they might be able to help, but not so close that they would feel threatened or, yeah.
Very good, thank you. I mentioned earlier, sustainability is an important criteria for ACS to see that the institution has thought about, okay, what happens after 3 years of ACS/NSF funding? How did you approach that with your faculty colleagues and with your dean? How did you, clearly you had a sustainability plan, what can you share with the audience on that topic?
So I'll answer that first. We secured a commitment from the university for the funded Bridge Fellows to essentially waive their tuition during their time here, and so that's one aspect. So during their 2-year masters, their tuition is waived, and we secured an agreement with the faculty that if their first $25,000 of stipend is covered by the ACS Bridge funds that come through NSF, then their agreement is to cover the remainder of the stipend for the full 2 years. And so any faculty advisor already knows this is what they're committing to up front. In fact, it already represents an advantage to the advisor to take a bridge student, because they provide less stipend and less tuition than they normally would. So that helps build in sustainability as well. Ultimately, we hope to expand the program by using the funds from ACS as a kind of seed to prove the program is working, and build in some corporate or other types of perhaps alumni gifts that would make the program financially be able to stand on its own beyond the first 3 years.
Thank you. Bob.
Yeah, sustainability is obviously an issue. We were very fortunate that we got quite a bit of matching funds from the Vice Chancellor's office and from the Dean, to the effect that the ACS component is about 40% of the total amount that it costs to give them a full, complete, well, what we do is have them run a full fellowship for the fall semester, and then they are on a reduced teaching load for the spring and for the second year. That's a 33% appointment instead of a 50% appointment. And then they have a full RA during the summer. So the cost of that is fairly substantial. So we've taken a kind of a several-pronged approach to solving the sustainability issue. One is that we created a gift fund, and we have felt in the past that many of our alumni are willing to give towards specific causes, and that this is one that I think a lot of our alumni are interested in supporting. We've also encouraged faculty to write specifically funds into their research grants, and if they do succeed in getting a bridge student, which again, we're in our first year, so that hasn't happened yet, but that they would be able to write a supplement request to the NSF or whatever agency they have to be able to support a bridge student. So that will not make it necessarily zero cost to overall, but it can really, I think, help a lot from the sustainability issue. And then the final thing we're doing is we do have an external advisory board, and one of the EAB's challenges will be to help us find a way to make this sustainable. And part of that will be to find individuals with deep pockets who will be willing to make a substantial donation. And part of it will probably be to find industrial support that'll help cover the rest of it. But we don't have it worked out completely by any means.
Well, I think the sustainability aspect, we all have to work on that. So ACS, as I mentioned earlier, we are thinking about, okay, it's a 5-year project funded through NSF, but we are very much interested in running that longer. So we work with our advisory board and with other experts and individuals to really solve that problem. And I think collectively we could really move the needle. Before we quickly answer the other questions, I should point out that I will be, Bob will be, and Carson will be at the 2019 Inclusive Credit Education Network National Meeting, which is held at the University of Central Florida, October 25th through 27th. We're not the only ones. There will be Bridge Site leaders from the physics community. There will be faculty members from geosciences, from astronomy. There will be students, administrators from all the different institutions, and others who are interested in becoming involved in our different bridge programs. So if you're considering to get engaged in the ACS Bridge project, this might be a meeting you would like to explore and join. It will be an incredibly valuable networking experience in my opinion. I will show that slide a little bit later, but let's go back to Q&A. Chris, I'm wondering if you could field, maybe, if you received some questions, you could share them with us.
Yes, Jörg, we have a couple questions. The first one is for Bob and Carson, and the viewer asks if you could give an idea of the size of your programs and how many participants are Bridge Fellows, and where does the funding come from for the non-Bridge ACS Fellows, which we touched on earlier.
Mm-hmm. So our program is bringing in 4 Bridge students with full fellowships, and then if we can secure additional funds, we will try to up that to maybe 6 students. So that would essentially mean 8 students per year, because it's essentially a 2-year program. And we felt that that was probably an appropriate place to start, because I think there's a lot of logistics that need to be worked out. And I think if you start too big, you're likely to have the potential for major problems. But I will say that one thing we learned from the American Physical Society Bridge Site that we talked to was that when they started increasing, or when they had the bridge program, that the number of applicants from underrepresented groups who came with very high qualifications and could get directly into the PhD program also went up substantially. So it's almost like a seed, right? You get a few of these students in, and I think word spreads that you are a good place to go for students from underrepresented backgrounds, and that then kind of nucleates something larger than simply the number of bridge students alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the size, we overall our program is for a chemical engineering program, we're very large. We have about 190 PhD students and probably 30 master's students. And traditionally our master's degree has been, in the last decade, a non-thesis master's, where students pay their own way to get this degree. So doing a thesis-based master's is a little bit different from the norm for us. But having the bridge funds really helps get that established. We have committed to have at least 2 bridge fellows per year, and so of course a steady state would be 4 minimum. But we also are, for example, in the first year here, we've taken an additional bridge student in who is, they started out, they were capable of paying their first semester of tuition, and we have essentially, we've now placed them with an advisor, and they will be able to switch over to being supported by their advisor by the end of this semester. And so that third student will be simply supported by a research contract through an advisor.
If I could just follow up a little bit. In our case, we have a very large PhD program, 300 students, and we typically get 60, 70 students per year into the PhD program. But we have typically not had students coming into a master's program unless there was some extenuating circumstances. And that typically meant students who were somehow tied to the military, because we have a large military presence on campus, or students who had a spouse or other reason to be located in the Madison area independently of the university. So in that sense, the 4 bridge students is a pretty big perturbation on what was and not a non-existent master's program, but was a pretty big perturbation in what we did at the master's level.
Thank you. Chris, which other question do we have for Bob and Carson?
Well, we actually have a question for you next, Jorg, and it is, how can four-year colleges, i.e. liberal arts colleges, get involved in the Bridge project?
I think four-year colleges would be able to design programs that could help students get ready for graduate programs, right? I think we outlined a paragraph, we outlined that in the request for proposal. I would refer to the document, and if there are any specific questions, the person asking that question should reach out to me. I'm happy to get on the phone and have a more in-depth conversation.
Mm-hmm. If I could just add to that a little bit. So I direct a Center for Chemical Innovation, for example, that involves a number of different PhD granting institutions. We are interested also in reaching out to four-year colleges, both through that center, but I've been trying to think about mechanisms by which we can engage PUIs more effectively. And so, if Jorg or whoever asked the question had ideas or would like to talk about that idea, I'd certainly be interested in talking about it more.
Bob, we will be in touch. Great. Chris, other question? I think we have only 2 minutes left.
So we've hit all the other questions tangentially and directly through the conversation, and those are the only other audience questions that we have.
Excellent. So if the audience has any other questions, feel free to send us an email, bridge@acs.org. We're happy to get back to you. We're happy to jump on the phone and talk to you in person. So with that, we are at the end of this webinar, and I would like to thank really Bob Hamers and Carson Meredith for their time and their advice and insight into how to craft competitive bridge site proposals. And I know both of them have their first cohort of bridge fellows on campus, and I'm so excited to see how the first cohort flourishes and develops. And thank you so much for being part of today's webinar. And please, everyone in the audience, we're looking forward to receiving your pre-proposal. The application deadline is October 31st. If you have any questions, reach out to us. Thank you so much for your time, and we will be in touch soon. Thank you.